Hello, I'm your oldest brother, Jackson McMurray.
And I'm your baby sister, Adeline McMurray.
Baby sister, a 30 under 30 video luminary.
You're right. Restart.
Okay.
Restart. No, restart.
Okay. Hello, I'm your youngest... No, wait, I got that one right. Hello, I'm your oldest brother, Jackson McMurray.
And I'm a 30 under 30 luminary's best baby's brother. What does he say? I'm Adeline McMurray.
And this is No Nerds Allowed.
There are no nerds allowed.
It's 30 under 30 video luminary.
Great, whatever. I thought it was like Forbes or something. I thought he did a quick name drop.
That's not our...
The podcast, famous for the My Brother, and Me lawsuit.
God, that'd be so great.
Let's just try to get sued by someone famous, and that's how we'll do this.
Sorry. I got distracted because it is very... You know what? Okay, Anna might be texting me about the very... Yes, she is. Okay, she's texting me about the very same thing that we were just recently talking about.
Okay, great.
That's what distracted me, but it's not really a distraction because it's on brand. So, Adeline, I believe we're going to watch the Cats trailer live on camera, yes?
Oh, yeah. What? Is it a movie?
It's a movie, yeah.
Okay, are you sending me the link?
I mean, you could just search Cats trailer.
Fine, I will.
This is a Comic-Con trailer drop, one of those famous Comic-Con trailer drops. Yeah, that's the thing about Comic-Con is that the word comic doesn't mean anything to anybody anymore.
No, it doesn't mean anything.
The Top Gun trailer dropped at Comic-Con today, too.
I just got the picture for it.
Yeah, just just start it.
Idris Elba. Ian McClellan, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, man, just start it.
Oh, okay, it's playing. It's loading. YouTube's trying to save me.
He's giving you an out.
It's only 15 seconds long. Oh, this is an advertisement. Dove's talking to me about my microbiome and how my skin needs to be polished, just like a car. So, a microbiome is definitely something they made up, like, right? Like,
maybe. I don't know.
It's starting.
Okay, all right.
Oh, it's the worst. Oh, it fucking sucks. Ah! What? Oh my. Old lady cat. Oh, why are there so many of them? Oh, God. Oh, she's dancing. She's got a necklace on. I can see her weird cat butt. Oh, my God. There's Johnny Depp as a cat. I don't know if it's Johnny Depp. It looks like it's Johnny Depp-esque. They are weirdly covering her boobs, like going to her stomach, because she's a cat. Oh, James Gordon, what are you doing? Jason Derulo.
Yeah, I know. Why's Jason Derulo in it?
Oh my God. Ian McClellan, why are you a cat with a mustache? Their faces look computer animated. It's because
they
it
look
is.
Awful.
Director of King's Speech, what the hell are you doing? Oh my God. You know what? It's the human noses. That's what it is.
You think so?
I think it's the whole thing, actually. I think it's every decision they made.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. That's kind of what I thought it was.
The holiday season, what will I believe? Oh, God. Why would you take the world's most hated musical and make a film about it?
And it's so funny, like I was saying earlier, Comic-Con doesn't mean anything anymore.
No,
like, comic books are not a part of it.
Who is the audience for this?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really creepy aunt?
I think it's just trying to capitalize. Like, Disney's doing big live-action musicals now.
Yeah.
But they're adaptations of their own stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like they think that the reason those are successful are just because they're big musical adaptations.
No.
But it's not that. It's because it's movies
because
that
it's
people
not
already
Cats
like.
the musical.
Yeah, also
okay,
true.
Why is it that every fantasy world on the planet can have a cat person that doesn't look that weird, and then this exists and just destroys it?
Right.
Like, the Khajiit in Skyrim, like, aren't that bad. They're like dudes with cat faces, and you're like, okay, that's cool. These ones are too human, and so they suck.
Well, they've got, like, Khajiit has, like, a cat head.
Yeah.
Like, it's not an anthropomorphized head. Like, the head is just the head of a cat, you know?
Yeah. And it looks okay, and then they have, like, human hands and feet, and everyone's like, that's fine.
Right.
But this...
okay. I just want to talk about the fact that we're in day one of San Diego Comic-Con as we sit down to record.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, we are. And the trailers that have dropped for big movies so far have been It Chapter 2. It's
Makes
not
sense.
really science fiction or comic book based, but it's closer than the other things I'm about to say.
It's like literary. There's book nerds.
Yeah. So Cats and Top Gun, which is literally
YouTube
the
tried to show me that
furthest thing.
trailer, and I wouldn't let them.
It actually looks pretty good. Have you seen it?
No. Is
It's
Top Gun the one where all the men have that volleyball scene?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I know about Top Gun.
But this Top Gun sequel has Tom Cruise and Chris McQuarrie as producers, so they're going like total Mission Impossible Fallout on it, and it's all like uber practical jet stunts. It's like Tom Cruise actually flying at the speed of sound in a jet and shit. It's like, God damn it. This sounded so stupid. It's like, this sounded so stupid when you were telling me that they were making a sequel to Top Gun, but now that I'm like looking at it, it's like, oh, yo, this looks like it might slap, actually.
It's gonna slap you. It's in 4D.
Yeah. You can really feel the G-force in the theater.
It's like when you go to Disneyland and you go to that theater that has like the fans in it. It's like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Except
they have
in this one,
rats
it's Top
crawling
Gun,
on your feet.
and they put you in the cockpit, and then they just apply about 400 pounds of pressure to your torso, like as you sit in the theater.
They just hire a man to like walk over and push on your chest for 2 hours.
Just get somebody to sit on you.
He's very oily and he's in volleyball shorts, but...
So yeah, this has been Cats Watch 2019.
Oh god, do we have to watch Cats when it comes out?
Yeah, I think maybe we do.
Oh god. People historically hate cats because it's the weirdest thing on the planet.
I don't think that's true. It's the longest, or I think actually Phantom of the Opera might be now, but it at least used to be the longest running Broadway musical.
But it was also the epitome of why Broadway musical was bad.
Yeah, okay, but people liked that version
I
of
mean,
it,
I guess
though.
that's true. People do like cats. I'm just saying there's something wrong with them. If you like cats, please contact help.
Stop it. Get some help.
Get some help. Throw a trash can through a stained glass window.
Do you have anything else you want to bring up, or do you want to just get into it?
We've done enough.
So what movie did we watch today, Adeline?
We watched the 1985 Clue, the movie, not the board game.
I watched the right movie.
What?
I'm glad I watched the right movie. Like, I got about halfway through it, and there was a part of me that was like, we haven't talked about this in a hot second, and I really hope we didn't change. I have to watch a whole new movie. But
Man, I really hope I didn't
movie.
just watch Clue for no reason.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so did you like this movie?
Okay, so the thing about this movie is that when it was released in 1985, it absolutely bombed. And then nowadays, it's like a cult classic. Like, people love Clue. But, so, I don't know why it bombed. Like, honestly, personally, like, it's not the best comedy, but it got some good laughs. I think it's a really creative and fun concept, and I think they handle it pretty well. It gets super convoluted, but at least they explain it.
Right.
And, like, honestly, I think the alternate endings thing is, like, such a good marketing idea. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was, like, a really creative. I didn't understand why it did so poorly.
Right. See,
did you not like it?
Not really. My biggest takeaway is that it really wants to be a Marx Brothers movie, but it's just not fast enough to really make that work.
Yeah, it really does slow down at the middle part.
Yeah.
Like, the beginning is super
I don't even
fun.
necessarily mean in terms of, like, plot pacing. I mean, like, the jokes aren't like quick and fast and witty enough. Like there's not enough of them. There's not the concentration isn't high enough for that style of joke to really work.
Not I think it's because it's based on Clue, which is probably one of the most convoluted and dialogue-based board games on the planet.
Right. Have you ever played Clue?
I haven't. Me and Mom bought Zelda Clue, and we still haven't played that. But that actually seems like fun.
Okay. Give me just a second. I'm going to stand up and get my notes really quick because I left them on my bed.
Okay, but I want to hear your Clue story when you get back. And he's walking away, and he's picking up his notes that were 2 feet away. And he's back.
I've been able to visually see you talking for the last 15 seconds, and I don't know what you said, so I hope it was funny.
Don't worry, it wasn't funny.
This movie...
Wait, have you ever played Clue?
No, I have not ever played Clue.
We should play Clue. That'll be the next video we upload. It'll just be us and some people playing
live
Clue.
On air?
We should do that when we go to Seattle with everybody. We should play Clue.
Okay, sounds good. Our very limited time in Seattle, we'll spend about 4 hours of it playing Clue.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? I don't get it.
Okay, this movie almost never, cuts to anywhere else. I don't want to say there's no montages in it, because that doesn't mean what I am trying to say. But, the idea of montage where you cut between two things that are separate and you infer that time has passed between them, you know?
Yeah.
They don't do that in this movie at all.
No, it takes over they're like, okay, we have an hour till the police come, and we see every minute of that hour.
Yeah, exactly. And that is not good in a movie that is so based on tight, fast-paced jokes, you know?
I guess that's true.
They do a few jokes and then they show you the entire time of everybody walking from one room to another. They can't just cut to the next room.
That's part of the comedy, though.
I guess.
When they're doing the wrap-up and the butler's explaining, how he thinks it all happened, and they're just, sprinting across the house. That's really funny.
No, that's true. That is really funny. But all the times when it's not explicitly played for comedic effect, it's 10 seconds of dead air, where they're just, shuffling around. And I really think this script should have just been produced as a play. I think it would have worked better.
Yeah. Okay, new hot take on No Nerds Allowed. Every single film that's okay should have just been a Broadway play.
But, in this one particular, I think... If, Thoroughbreds, we talked about last episode, we said it could have been a play.
Well, it was supposed to be a play.
Right. But, I think as a film or as a play, it does its job equally well,
Yeah, if it was script... either or, it still does what it needs to do.
Yeah. Particularly in this movie, all the scenes where everybody's all at once, talking to each other and accusing each other and going back and forth... I wanted to just be able to see everybody at the same time, and I couldn't, the editing is kind of disjointed in this movie. So the fact that they're constantly cutting between all these different people in the same room with all these crazy lines of action, it, not only disorients your sense of space, but it also, I just wanted to be seeing more people at a time than I was ever able to. Does that make sense?
Especially because it becomes important, who was in the room and who wasn't in the room.
Exactly, yeah.
And then as the viewer not being able to see all of a room, it does get hard. Well, because what's another cool thing about this movie is that they definitely do, sprinkle in, clues for the endings or one of the endings or all the endings throughout the rest of the film. But again, because they keep that camera in so tight and don't show you everything, I feel like they're kind of wasted.
Right.
When they're at the dinner, there's definitely something going on where, only some people have red wine or some other people have, more drinks than other people have. There's definitely, clues going on that they're trying to give you, but, I can't see them for long enough to figure them out.
Yeah, to actually synthesize much of anything.
Yeah. So going through this movie chronologically, it has... the worst opening crawl. It's just 5 minutes of 20 names against this background of just a clouds moving.
Yeah.
And it's bad. And then eventually we get to a car driving and it's okay.
Yeah, and I feel like that's probably, this movie has a very like old school sensibility to it.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that's probably on purpose because, you know, in old movies like that, they put pretty much all the credits up front in that same kind of way, you know. So I feel like that's what they're trying to allude to. But it was also boring in the 50s, and it's still boring now.
It was boring then, and it's boring now.
Yeah, just because they did it a long time ago doesn't mean it is good to do. Yeah.
There's a reason we've stopped doing it. It's because it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then...
It's like, you know, we got you in this theater to watch this movie. You're going to sit you right down, and first thing you're going to do is you're going to read for about 8 minutes before anything happens.
Oh, okay. Will it be plot relevant? No. It's just a bunch of names.
Yeah.
Just space out for 10 minutes and try not to fall asleep and also eat all of your popcorn.
Yeah. This is the point at which you open all your candy. That's what this is for.
Like,
don't
really,
wait until the dramatic part.
You would send a telegram to your secretary telling her to clean your schedule, and you would open up all your snacks.
Yeah.
What are other old-timey things?
Don't wait until it gets kind of quiet for you to, like, open up your crinkly Zots or whatever you brought into the theater.
Yeah,
what's an old-timey candy? You open your Coca-Cola bottle. Yeah. Yeah, okay, anyway. My notes are a little bit sparse on this one, just because, like, in general, I have, like, some big ideas that I think about it.
Yeah.
And, like, all the minutia of what actually happens is just kind of like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a little bit. I only have about like a page of stuff too. Yeah. But the whole sequence at the beginning where the butler like comes up and there's the dogs chained up and he like throws the meat and stuff is cool, but it literally, we never come back to that for any reason.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you anything. Like,
no.
The only thing it does is like introduce you visually to Tim Curry's character, which is like, okay, sure, like we've got to get acquainted with him at some point, I guess. But it's like he feeds some dogs and steps in poop, haha.
Maybe it's like, supposed to be like it's not his house, but it seems like he knows how to get into there, so it probably is his house. I don't know. Yeah, it like literally doesn't serve any purpose, but yeah. And I appreciate the satire of not only the actual game of Clue, but also of just like all the old murder mysteries. But the nurse's costume is ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Like, I understand what they're doing, but...
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things. It's like, is paying homage to something old and gross still old and gross, or is it kind of cool if you're doing it in kind of a tongue-in-cheek way? It's just one of those questions that I have to ask myself constantly in the 21st century, and I never know what the answer is.
Yeah. But it's just like, find a woman if she's okay with it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Any woman.
If someone's willing to do it, it can't be that bad, right?
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
I appreciate sort of the like plot gymnastics they have to go through to like set this up to kind of feel like a game of Clue, though.
Yeah.
Like everyone's blackmailed and that's why they show up, and it's so weirdly convoluted, but it all like works out in its own kind of way. Works.
I mean, there's just so many, like, tiny gags in this movie that, like, worked so well. Like, it's kind of a stupid joke, but when they first go into the library and the butler is showing Mrs. White in, and he totally just, like, hits the colonel with the door, and the colonel's stuck behind the door. Like, that's really funny. It's the stupidest gag on the planet, but, like, it works.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Another thing, like, in plays, you can have sort of, like, background sight gags like that.
Yeah.
And they work really well. But in a movie like this, it's distracting, you know?
That's true.
Like, it's sort of, it takes away from the centralized focus of the camera, you know? Like, and there's a lot of moments like that. Go ahead.
What was the play that the senior class at LC did my freshman year? That was the whole thing about the backstage of the Broadway show?
Noises Off?
Noises Off.
Yeah. That's
a good example of what you're talking about. There's so many, like,
totally.
background sight gags in that play. And it's a hilarious and awesome play. I feel like that's what they were kind of trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But weren't willing to commit to it.
Right. And and it's just another part of it. And I was going to say, I think Clue has been adapted for the stage. Like, that's a thing, right?
It's gotta. Yeah, I'm going to look it up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing some quick research. My internet is so much slower.
We should watch all of the plays of the things that we said should have been plays. Except we can't, because no plays ever do anything, and no one can ever see them.
There's Clue the musical. That's close enough.
That is a thing, isn't it? Wait, there's Clue on stage. Yeah, no, there's a play.
Okay, yeah. So
it's based off of the movie.
I'm willing to bet it's much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Based on
there should have been a play
based on the picture, based on the game. Yeah. So it's based on the movie.
And yeah, so like, yeah, basically that's most of what I have to say about this movie. Honestly, is just that like I think it should have been a play. I want to be able to see everything all at once, but I can't because it seems like they're actually filming in a real house and they can't move the camera far back enough to show you everybody at the same time. Because
that must be what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah. What was I gonna say? I appreciate the amount of slapstick in this movie for a movie made in 1985. Like, I guess the 80s was probably a really big year for screwball comedy, but I feel like after the 80s, like, we haven't had a good, like, screwball comedy. Like, we have a lot of lowbrow stuff, like Dumb and Dumber, and we have a lot of, like, more highbrow stuff, but, like, I don't know. I feel like we haven't had, like, a true screwball comedy, in a really long time.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think, like, in the vein of something like Clue or, like, a Marx Brothers movie that's, like, pretty broad, but not, like, stupid.
Yeah. Well, because Airplane was in the 80s, and that's definitely a screwball movie.
Yeah.
And that's all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird... I think Game Night could fit pretty well into that sort of oeuvre.
Into screwball?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not necessarily slapsticky, but it's, like, really farcical in nature. And it's not, like, a highbrow comedy, but it's not, like, a gross-out lowbrow comedy either, you know?
Screwball is actually a very specific term in film, that it's in between high and low, but also has a lot of sexual undertones, because that's how they got around censorship, was with making jokes out of sexual stuff and doing innuendos and stuff. So unless they did that, then it's not a screwball, Jackson. Take
no,
a
not
film
really.
class.
I don't know, maybe. You haven't even seen it. You should see it.
I need to see it. It's on my list.
Game Night's like one of my favorite movies in the last few years. It's so good.
I know.
I wouldn't want to do a podcast about it, though, because I would just be like, this part was funny, and this part was funny. I laughed at that.
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about comedy movies, because, like...
Yeah.
The movie isn't super interested in the plot because it's a comedy, so why would you be? And so then you're just sitting there, going, these are my favorite vines, let me say them, because they're really funny.
Yeah.
We've never done that.
There's
just this is me stealing a joke, but when they get into the dining room and there's the gag that they're like slurping their soup, slurping their soup, all I can think about is the way he slurps up his soup. What an asshole! Like, that's just all I can think about.
Is that a Game Grumps quote?
Yeah, that's Game Grumps talking about Ganondorf.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay, so maybe you can help me translate the next thing I wrote down.
Cool.
Objects is a word. Development.
No.
I wrote down the words objects is a word. Development.
Are you... The next thing that I have written down...
Okay.
No, I think it might be what you were talking about. I said that... Because they figure what's going on. They're all being blackmailed by Mr. Body. And they're like, okay, we're going to call the police. Blah, blah, blah. And then Mr. Body's like, no, here's a bunch of murder weapons. And if one of you kills the butler, then we don't have to talk to the police. And they're oh.
Right.
But
okay.
and then he hands out...
I wrote down weird. I figured it out. I wrote down weird, not word. Okay.
Yeah, but then he hands out all these murder...
objects are a weird development.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. The idea was really cool. That's like, hey, you all have murder weapons, and I'm saying if you kill this guy, then we don't have to do it. I'm going to turn out the lights, and then nobody will know. And that's a really interesting setup. But there's like a candlestick and a wrench and a lead pipe. Like, all of the weapons except for the knife and the gun are super lame.
Yeah, I know. No, and, it's kind of what I was talking about before, is sort of the, like, plot gymnastics they have to do in order to incorporate elements from a board game, you know? But I think they managed to pull it off pretty well, you know? It seems, it's kind of goofy and contrived still, but it works in its own kind of way.
I mean, but in the true ending at the end where he's like, but who killed Mr. Bodie? It was me with a gun in the hallway. And then they all kind of look in the camera for a second and then move on. It's like that kind of payoff where it's like, well, you did it. You did what you wanted to do. Yeah,
no, totally. There's just a moment that I thought was really funny where the gay guy slaps the hysterical woman in the face, but he super doesn't get her in the face. It's like he slaps her in the chest.
Yeah. I don't know. That happens a lot where they do fight scenes and they're really, really bad. I don't know if that was intentional to kind of make fun of old fight scenes or if they were just really bad.
It could be.
I think that might have been why this movie flopped, is that sometimes you can't tell when they're making a joke and when they're just being incompetent.
Right, yeah. Oh, okay. That scene, okay, this is the absolute weirdest scene to me.
Yeah.
There's that bit where they, Tim Curry is like, okay, we're all going to split up and we're going to draw straws to see who goes with who. And he, chops up the matches, and we see him chop up every single match individually. And then he turns around, and they all start to draw straws. And then we watch everybody walk up and draw a straw. And then afterwards, everybody sort of looks at each other and kind of tries to figure out who has the same straw as them. And if you're getting super bored listening to me describe it right now, imagine how I felt having to watch it. Literally, it's there. 2 minutes plus of the shot of them just drawing straws and figuring out where, how they're gonna split up. You know what I would have done? I would have had somebody say, we're gonna draw straws, showed them drawing straws, maybe all at once, and then just cut to them doing whatever they're gonna do.
Whatever the hell they were doing, yeah.
Yeah, Jesus, it was so long.
There's a lot of really, the gags in this movie are kind of few and kind of far apart. But there are so many gags that do really get me. And this was probably, I have to describe this one. It's this would be a perfect Vine. It's where they go, they find Mr. Bodie's actual dead body and he falls out of the bathroom onto the lady. And she's about to pass out. And the butler's like, oh, come over here, I'll catch you. And then she just falls through his arms and through his legs onto the floor.
Yeah.
It's this weird, random, really quick shot. And then we move on. It's hilarious.
It is really good.
It's they just copy pasted a Vine right into this middle of this movie, just real quick.
I was gonna say, and there's a couple of moments where just a couple of bits that really got me that I wrote down. Yeah. Right at the very beginning, there's this moment where they're kind of handing out drinks to everybody, and one of the guys is just oh great, and clinks it against this woman's glass. This is before I was familiar with the characters, so I don't remember which ones it were.
Yeah.
But and he just clinks it against this woman's glass, and she jumps and is really offended at the fact that he just clinked his glass against her glass, and I thought it was really funny. Do you even remember that shot at all?
No.
Okay, cool. It was really good.
Great, I'm glad.
Maybe I'll edit it into the YouTube version of this.
Great. But yeah.
And when that motorist comes to the door and he's like, "Can I use your phone?" And they're all like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "Oh okay, great. Where is it?" And Tim Curry's like, "What, the body?" I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, they're like, "What?" Yeah, I mean, Tim Curry absolutely carries this film on his back.
I think so too.
The butler's a great character, and he's the butler is the only reason that anyone knows what's going on at all at any time.
Right, and half of these jokes, there's just a lot of them, and so many of them are just these really half-assed double entendres.
Yeah.
They're just oh, I'm really full, and someone else is like, oh, are you? And you're like, okay, this is nothing.
And it's because these are, the joke is that these are two-dimensional characters because they're based off of characters from Clue. So they're I don't even remember what the line is, but it's oh, you need practice. And then the sexy lady is I think all men need a little practice, don't you think? And it's what's wrong with you?
What is that joke even supposed to mean?
Yeah, he's oh, I used to run a practice. She's all men need a little practice, right, ladies? And it's what? No?
It's the writers were just banging their heads against the wall. It's just fuck. Basically, how do we make as many "that's what she said" jokes as we can in this scene?
I need more goofs. Yeah, and the characters are. I do enjoy the characters that they have because they're just such classic. I mean, they're Clue characters. They're two-dimensional. Right. They're classic and they're funny. But yeah, they do know how to handle these characters, like, though having them, like, pair up and split off, like, it knows that they know how to handle these characters and, like, the duos that they get into, because those duos are, like, set up for comedy, and they do get comedic, like, they just know how to use the characters.
But are there really any good gags in any of those sequences, though?
No, and that's what's disappointing.
Yeah, because I feel like all the gags they do are not at all specific to their characters, and they're also just not really that good in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like, here's one where the two people are both afraid of the dark. That's funny.
Or
and then these guys, one of them falls down the stairs.
Yeah, there's the one where Mrs. White is in the room and the lights go off and she's, like, walking around. But then this giant Jack-in-the-Box goes off and I'm...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was just like, why the fuck does this exist? Where did this come from?
Was that something in an earlier draft of the script? Like, what happened
maybe?
here?
I don't know. One of the gags I did really like is there's a gag that you keep thinking that a chandelier is going to fall on the Colonel, but it never does. I thought that was really good.
Right, yeah.
He's just, like, always standing underneath a chandelier right before it falls.
Right. This is, like, way at the end of my notes already.
Yeah.
But, there is one moment where they do a hard cut from one spot to another, though. And it's actually really funny. It's when they walk outside and they, like, pick up the dead body of that, like, Candygram girl. What's the name of it?
Singing Telegram.
Singing Telegram, yeah. And they're like, oh, it's another body or whatever. And they, like, pick her up and they're like, okay, put her in the study. And then they just, like, hard cut to her dropping a third body on top of two others. And that's really funny. Like, if they had used editing to their advantage at all in this movie, I think it would have been so much better.
I know. Well, and the jokes that come with there being just, like, 3 dead bodies are all really good. Like, at the beginning where the Colonel, like, checks in the room and he's like, just checking, 2 dead bodies, everything's fine. Like, that's really funny.
That's a really good one, too.
And and when Yvette gets murdered and they just, like, walk into the pool room and then walk back out, it's also really funny. Yeah. Like, it's just like, at this point.
So, yeah, okay. So I have sort of a big idea I want to talk about the multiple endings.
Yes.
First of all, it's a cool idea that they set up different plot devices for the 3 different ones, right?
Yeah.
And, like... And I'm going to talk about this not in the version that we watched it where we saw all 3, but just, like, presuming that you saw it in theaters and you only got to see one of them.
Yeah.
Like, one of them is the best one pretty definitively, right?
Like the first one, right?
Oh, I was saying, like, the third one where it's, like, everybody was, like, involved.
I mean, I like that one because the character that the FBI agent gets, and I like the Butler being Mr. Body and stuff, like, that's really cool. But I feel like everybody being the killer is just kind of a cop-out, especially when you're basing it off Clue, when it's like, oh, we have all these clues, here's who's the murderer, and it's like, it's everybody, and it's like, well, that's dumb.
Yeah, I don't know, but it didn't feel like a cop-out because it was, like, pretty well-reasoned, though.
It was. And when you see all 3 of them right in a row, where they're like, oh, this is all her motives, this is all her motives, and you get to the end, and you're like, well, everybody had a motive, and everyone could have done it this way, and it's like, well, yeah, but that's the point of Clue, is that all of the characters could have done it, and you're trying to figure out who actually did.
Right. But this is really similar to a conversation I heard a lot of people saying when Bandersnatch came out a little while ago, the, like, Choose Your Own Adventure Black Mirror episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you've got, like, multiple endings to this story, you should be making sure that every possible, like, branch gets the same amount of care from a storytelling perspective, you know?
Yeah.
Like, in Bandersnatch, depending on the decisions you choose, you can personally, like, sort of water down the story based on what you do, or you can have, like, a really narratively strong one depending on how you select things.
Yeah.
Like, if you make not the wrong decisions, but depending on the decisions you make, sometimes, like, background or, like, minor characters can kind of phase out of the story and not ever come up again and stuff like that. Like, that if you're doing something like this, what you should be doing is making sure that, like, every possible thread gets an equal amount of care in the writing, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think that's been the problem with Choose Your Own Adventure stuff since Choose Your Own Adventure became a thing. because it's
Right.
cool to have agency over the story, but you have all the power in the world to fuck it up and create a bad story.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
there's always like 5 endings, but there's always a true ending, and there's always like
Right.
3 lame endings where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you open the door and it was the exit and you can just walk out. It's like, yeah. And I had, not to make this about D&D, but D&D is a little bit like that, because it's not necessarily choose your own adventure, but the story is dictated by the person consuming it rather than the author, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I heard someone describe D&D, it's like if you wrote a Harry Potter book and Harry Potter there was a possibility that Harry Potter could just decide to not do anything. And it's like, well, then
Right.
the story's ruined. Because as an author, writing a regular story, you can be like, oh, well, Hermione walks up to this door and opens it. But in D&D or Choose Your Own Adventure, there's a possibility that Hermione doesn't open the door. And then it's like,
Right,
well, then
yeah.
what the fuck do we do?
Yeah. So yeah, and I guess that's just how I felt. Like, at least to me, I felt like the third one had like the strongest narrative payoff of like the setup leading up to it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it felt like the most cohesive and the most like everything that you've seen already like coming together for like a strong resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And the other two just didn't feel quite as strong to me. It's like they were, you know, purposefully designing 3 different endings, but it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they had
We
one
have
and
a
they just came
true
up with 2
ending.
other ones. Yeah, yeah. And
I mean-
like yeah, go ahead.
The second one's definitely the worst one.
Yeah.
'Cause it's-
Which one's the second one?
The second one is when it's the senator's wife, and she's like, I did it. And they're like, oh. But they're like, she kills all of the blackmailers just because she doesn't want to get blackmailed. And so Tim Curry's like, yeah, you killed all the black mirrors.
Oh, that's
What are-
right. The
Blackmailers.
Mirrors?
All the blackmailers. You can go, and then she gets arrested. And it's like, okay, well.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because the first one, it's with Scarlet, and Scarlet, like, actually has a motive because she doesn't want to get found out and all these things, and she's, like, doing stuff to, like, protect herself, and, like, that one's interesting and actually has a fun... I like the resolution of that one, where it's like, you don't have any bullets left, and she's like, no, I shot 2
yeah.
and then 1 into 2. Like,
That
that's
one's
really
funny.
good.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I felt that... Before I saw the third one, I thought that was the best one, because the second one sucks. But, yeah.
Right.
Third one's
And see,
good, too.
I feel like they, like, did most of what I would want out of a scenario like this. Because presumably the idea is to just, like, sow seeds of chaos in culture, basically.
I mean,
where it's
yeah.
like 2 people talking about the movie would be like, oh, it's so crazy that this happened at the end. The other person would be like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you talking about?
Dude, okay.
But, like...
No, sorry, real quick. People talk about all the time about, like, being able to see Star Wars for the first time and how it totally, like, changed you as a person seeing Star Wars for the first time. Can you imagine if Star Wars had different endings? How that would just, like, destroy pop culture as we knew
I
it?
know.
That would be so good.
But, like, I feel like the first 2 endings aren't really different enough for that to be really that funny.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it's just
at
more
the end of the day, it's like a different person did it, but it's still like, oh, the butler was an undercover agent, and they get arrested at the end because that guy was J. Edgar Hoover or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. And it would just be like, your friend would just think that you got the characters confused.
Exactly, yeah. And so what I would do if I were in charge of this process, I would really make sure that, like, totally and fully completely different things happened in all 3. Like, in the very last one, it was like, oh, the butler was Mr. Body, and they're all criminals, and they're all gonna go and never speak of the night again, and one of them is like, he was an undercover cop, and they all got arrested, and then, like, the third one would be like, and the house fucking exploded, and they all died at the end. Like, just so it's, like, totally different.
Yeah, and then the colonel was a werewolf, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know, did they just distribute different prints of the movie to different theaters, or did every theater, like, alternate?
I don't know. I assume they would just give different theaters different ones. That seems like the easier thing to do.
Yeah, if they were doing this right, they would have alternated different showings. That way, like, you and your friends could get in a fight about it.
Yeah, exactly. People you knew.
But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, going back into the movie a little bit, this isn't really criticism. Well, when I watched this movie, and they introduced a black character into a murder mystery. I was like, oh, looking at my watch, it's the year 1980. He's gonna get murdered.
No, yeah, for sure.
But it's okay because he wasn't the first one to get murdered, and several other people got murdered. And he's also the world's coolest cop because he walks into a room of a bunch of people drunk and making out, and he's like, "This isn't illegal. I need to use your phone." So yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like honestly,
I do also like the bit where the cop's walking around and he just sees a bunch of people like partying and making out, and Tim Curry's like, "Oh my god, it's not what you think I can explain," and he's like, "No, it's all right. It's like it's a free country," and he's like, "Oh shit, for real?" Like he thinks he's totally cool with the murders. He's like,
"Yeah,
no way, for real? Like that's awesome."
He's like, "It's America. It's a free country," and he's like, "I didn't know it was that free."
Yeah.
It's really good.
That was funny.
I mean, honestly, the best part of this movie is the part where Tim Curry is running around the house and explaining the murders and, like, knocking people over, throwing people down the stairs and hitting people. Like, it's hilarious. Yeah,
no, I think what I wrote down for my, on my Letterboxd account, whenever I watch a movie, I just write a quick little, like, 1 or 2 sentence review just to make sure I'm staying engaged with the things I care about. But what I wrote down for Clue was the last half hour of this movie is so fun it almost makes you forget how not funny the rest of it is.
I mean, yeah.
And that's I stand by that.
I think honestly the best gag in this whole movie is where Tim Curry the butler is running around and like telling them how it did, so they're like going through all the events that happened throughout the movie. But so it's like, and then the lights went out and we found the dead body, and it turns out the lights, and everybody screams, and they turn the lights back on, and he's laying face down, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, the butler!" And then he immediately gets up and keeps talking, and it's really funny. I feel like every time I talk about a comedy, I say the sentence, "It's really funny," over and over and over again.
And
because
that part
it is,
was really funny.
And I have no way to show you that it was.
Yeah, trust me, I laughed.
I laughed out loud. I was rolling on the floor laughing.
I raffled the fuck out of this movie.
I laughed my ass off while rolling on the floor.
How many different combinations of I laughed acronyms can you put together? Like rolling on the floor, laughing my ass off out loud.
Out loud.
Yeah.
Not silently.
So, Adeline, any final thoughts? What's your big takeaway on Clue?
The ending line of "I'm gonna go sleep with my wife."
Yeah, that's really funny too.
Is really good. But yeah, I think
and
this
it's like
movie...
that freeze frame right afterwards.
Yeah.
And like that music starts playing. It's so great.
It's really great. But yeah, this movie has such a creative concept that it was set up to be so cool and original and funny. And to their credit, they did pull off a lot of stuff. They just didn't fully do everything that I feel like they wanted to do, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like, it was a really good idea, and there are some really funny parts, and like having different endings is a really cool idea. They just didn't fully get to the finish line with any of their ideas.
Yeah. I can't help but feel like the biggest problems with this are that it's not fast enough and it's not edited enough.
Yeah,
like,
it definitely needs more editing.
I think if you like improved those two things, this movie would be like way funnier and way more enjoyable to watch. Because I got so sick of having to see every second of this thing play out on screen, where it's like they walk between rooms and they draw straws and they all figure out which straws they are, and then they all each individually walk to different rooms. It's like, okay, Jesus.
I guess the idea of showing every single minute, especially for something like a murder mystery, when you as the viewer want as much information as possible, would be really cool if the camera movement was better, because then it would feel like we were getting all the information and we did have all the clues and we could figure it out. But again, because the camera's so tight and they don't show us everything, that like showing us every single second but then not showing us everything is just like they like contradict each other. Like you gotta either do both of them or do neither of them.
Yeah, no, totally. So, okay, let's move on to our second things. What do you have to offer today, Adeline?
Well,
what is your
mine's
offering?
a little bit of a cop-out, but only because I haven't read the thing that I'm going to be talking about. But, so I pre-ordered the second part of the Adventure Zone, the Murder on the Rockport Limited graphic novel, and my friend got it for me for Christmas, but it came out in July. So it's being delivered to his house. So he has my thing, and I would have I would have read it. I read it, and you'll read it, and you loved it. That's a.
I read it and I read it, and I want you to read it. My thing's gonna be Fetch Pins. I'm changing my thing right now.
Okay, good. We should do a whole episode about Fetch Pins.
No, God, I think I already told you I want to do an episode about Fetch Pins for April Fool's Day, but I'm going to edit that out of the podcast if we
it's just going to be us saying it's really funny over and over again. Anyway. But yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to read it. And I read it, and I read it, and you read it. I can't say the sentence without wanting to make that joke.
I know. Okay, so for the people not in the loop, the Fetch Pins of Blair is this, like, feature-length YouTube poop of an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on YouTube, and I discovered it when I was in like my junior year of high school, and it is truly like one of the funniest things in the world.
It's so good,
and it's just like so ingrained in both of our consciousnesses. I'll never forget. There was a moment when I was at SFCC where I was in a play where one of the characters was just named the president. And somebody was like, "Is the president here?" And I was like, "Is President there?" And everyone just like looked at me. And I was like, "It's from a stupid internet thing. Never mind."
So do you know what YouTube poop is?
Honestly, I don't think I like any YouTube poop as much as I like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
No, like they're never as funny as you want them to be.
Yeah.
Like Fresh Prince is the only one I've ever seen where I was like, damn, this is really funny. Like, you nailed it, dude.
Like, I could watch this multiple times.
Yeah.
Easy.
I mean, like, yeah, sometimes YouTube poop just, like, goes too far to the point where it's, like, incomprehensible anymore. But, like, Fresh Prince is, like, just on that level that I can still comprehend it.
Yeah, it's got a narrative structure to it still.
I mean, it does. Like, it follows an episode
right.
and, like, makes its weird own little plot throughout the episode.
Yeah, I know. It's so great. Okay, continue your thing you were already talking about.
Kills a guy.
I know how we're gonna help Will. We have to attack him. Then they just like shoot laser beams.
Did he not feel pain when he was hurt?
I mean, did he not shit? Did he not droosh?
Got a leg in one hand and a chicken waffles in the other. You know what I mean?
A leg in one hand and a brayer in the other. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
God, it's so good. Okay, Murder on the Rockport Limited, Adeline.
It's really good. So I just got the graphic novel for it. I've had the first one for forever. I think I already talked about it. I've never had the Adventure Zone, just like the podcast, as my secondary thing because it's such a big thing that it's kind of a weird to just like have a second be like, you should listen to the Adventure Zone. It's really good. There's like 69 episodes of it. Go listen to it. But so I feel more comfortable talking about the graphic novels because it's easy for someone to just pick up and read because it's a graphic novel without having to commit to the entire podcast, which you should listen to because it's really good, but just saying, it's easier to read the graphic novel.
Right.
But yeah. No, the Murder on the Rockport Limited is maybe one of my favorite murder mysteries because it's handled so good, but it's like Clue has so much baggage behind it because it's Clue. Like it has to be Clue. But when it's just you and your family playing D&D, it can be silly and everything's fine. Like there's one of the NPCs who's like a suspect. It's just a wizard who has the word juicy written across his butt and on his robes. And it's just like stuff like that. It's like there are high stakes because there's a murderer and they're trying to get the artifact, but like at the same time, it's like we're there to have fun and humiliate a child detective over and over again. So yeah, Murder on the Rockport Limited is probably, I think that's the story where they were like solidified the characters of D&D. Like they weren't playing D&D as just a juke goat. Whoa. Murder on the Rockport Limited was the story in the Adventure Zone where they kind of figured out that they weren't just playing D&D as a goof or a joke anymore. They were, like, actually creating a cohesive story.
Right.
So that's when you get, like, great characters like Angus MacDonald, and you get a bunch of great NPCs. You get Jenkins, the train attendant that just couldn't give any amount of a shit. And it's just, you just see the beginnings of this really cool story, and it's handled really well, and the characters are really fun. And the graphic novel just came out, so you should go pick it up. And that's why I really liked it.
Great, because it just came out.
Because it just came out, and I'm a goldfish, and if I don't look at it, I will forget about it.
It's
I
the
have
only
no
thing
object permanent.
in my current world right now, and that's why I really like it.
I see it. We already said this. This goof is over.
So my thing today is a YouTube channel, but more specifically a couple of videos. Adam Neely is somebody who does sort of music theory video essays on YouTube, and they're like really and truly, I think, some of the best produced like video essay guy talking to a camera style videos on YouTube. And you know, it's not really for everybody because he talks pretty in depth about some pretty like complicated music theory ideas that like even somebody like me who is pretty into the ideas about music theory and knows what I'm talking about to a certain extent, he still like totally loses me sometimes. But like they're so they're so like wonderfully produced, and they have such a strong momentum, and they're so well edited that they're just fascinating to watch even when you don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
But there are two videos in particular that I want to single out. One of them came out about a year ago, and the other one came out this week, where he talks about there's a certain group of people on the internet who think that tuning music to 432 hertz versus 440 hertz is like this spiritual revelation. And he basically just goes through all these things that people say and just totally debunks them like one by one by one, and it's really, really good. So basically the idea is like when you're tuning an instrument, the like standard in the world is that that tone should be 440 hertz. And this is pretty much arbitrary. It's just like a tone that we've all decided will be, that's what A is. And throughout history, there have been different versions where the standard was slightly different, but it was adjusted up or down slightly for various practical reasons. And it doesn't really mean anything, but that's just the way it is right now. It's 440.
Yeah.
And there's this conglomerate of people on the internet, and it's all like total like pseudoscience bullshit. That's like,
you know they're all witches, you know.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're all witches. That think that if you tune your music to A equals 432 hertz instead, the evidence is all about like the Schumann frequency, which is like the resonant frequency of the Earth.
I thought that was the ghost frequency.
That might also be part of it because it's all bull anyway. But
it's all made up. Don't worry about it.
So basically what it is, it's like when you're extrapolating other notes from A equals 440, the like hertz value, the like tone value of all the other notes is like really weird math with like crazy decimals and stuff. Mm-hmm. But 432 divides much more nicely. So the numbers you get are like nice whole numbers when you're looking at other notes. And that's a big part of it, because it's just like whole numbers are good and decimals are bad, so therefore this version is more spiritually coherent. If I've learned anything
from elementary school math,
right, exactly,
that decimals are scary.
But it's also like the Schumann frequency is the resonant frequency of the Earth as an object, and it's about 8 hertz, and all the numbers in 432 tuning are divisible by 8, but part of that is that the Schumann frequency isn't actually 8 hertz. It's like 7.84 hertz or something like that.
Yeah,
so
even still, it's a scary decimal.
Whack. Yeah, no, that doesn't count. So he just goes through like bit by bit and debunks all these huge myths about why tuning your music slightly lower isn't gonna like realign your chakras and like give you this spiritual release, because like there's a reason we do things the way we do them, and like if 432 really was better, we'd be tuning all our instruments to 432.
Yeah, we would be doing that.
Yeah, so it's two different videos. The first one is just called A equals 432 hertz, and the second one is called Testing 432 hertz frequencies and temperaments. They're both really, really great, and I would highly recommend them. Yeah, they're just really fascinating videos, even if you don't have a strong background in music theory. They're still intelligible and interesting, and that's why I really like them.
Yeah, I said something about the ghost frequency. I don't know if that's a thing. I just remember they were talking about when they were debunking ghosts in, like, old, like, famous haunted buildings where they, like, took, like, real scientific equipment there. They found that, like, a majority of, like, old buildings just, like, had this super low tone in them that made people feel uncomfortable. And so people were saying, like, it's not ghosts, it's this just low frequency that freaks you out. And then other people were like, no, that low frequency is a ghost. They were like, no, it's not.
Yeah. So, hey, Adeline, do you want to hear a 5-star review of Clue?
I do.
This review comes from Malm Rose on letterboxd.com. This person gives this movie 5 stars, and they say, I want to fuck everybody in this film.
Every single one.
All right, my name's Jackson McMurray.
My name's Adeline McMurray.
And this is No Nerds Allowed.
There are no nerds allowed.
How many people in this movie do you want to fuck, Adeline? Just give a number. Just give me a number.
69. That's a lie. I just want to have sex with Tim Curry and nobody else.
It's probably 3.
All right. Mine's 32 divisible by 8.
Mine's 8, the Schumann frequency.
And we will Schumann frequently.
And God, I just want to Schumann Tim Curry.
That was really good.